Howdy ho, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to Knowledge or Nonsense.
Welcome. Hey, Sharon, how you been?
Man, I've been well. Working, loving life. You?
Yeah, thanks.
I heard you had a day, right? There was a day this past weekend that belonged to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The big 44. And thanks for holding down the show. Without me, it's been a lot of travel lately. But we're in such good company. I'm so excited tonight. What a show for our audience. What an amazing show. What a topic
Yeah,
concept. So exciting.
I am too because I myself. It sounds like you know how important IP is, infection prevention is, but there were so many things I learned even in preparing for this show. Just the ways that collaboration is beautiful, toward patient safety, toward just improving processes. So, but before we jump into that, are you staying hydrated?
I am. This heat wave is serious. It's so serious.
Listen,
Mm,
there are whole countries who have told people turn off the air conditioning, not
mhm.
as a suggestion, but as like a mandate, like you're in violation. You will turn off that air condition, or you will deal with the consequences of like government. Like there will be sanctions. So
No, there's so much going on, and this is a another unfortunate shared experience, right? Um, People globally are experiencing this heat wave. So another crisis, environmental crisis that will impact us all. And it's not just limited to the species of human beings. Um, Plant life and animal life, and everyone's impacted by it. So hopefully, at the end of the show, we can put up some tips how to stay safe during the heat wave. Um,
yeah, definitely we will do that. Guys, please stay hydrated out there. We're going to jump, on Tuesdays. We are in the department. If it is dealing with, if we're in the facility, if it's dealing with healthcare, anything to improve SPD, anything to improve the way we work within the surgical support community, we're going to talk about it. We want to enhance knowledge. Bring your questions. If you don't want to put your question inside of the comment box, that's okay. You can text your question to 214-717-5921. We have a couple of individuals today who are really gonna just help expound.
it's
Maybe you're fighting to get some stuff. I won't go too deep into it.
Hey, we should get deep into it, and I want to, I like to bring our guests in ASAP. Um, it's so important, So this one position in healthcare, I almost consider a diplomat because they deal with so many departments, so many. They have access to so many resources, and these are our infection preventionists. These infection control nurses, these professionals. Um, Open a statement, right? Infection control professionals not only work with patients and physicians, but also scientists, public health experts, and government agencies. And their sole mission is much broader than just making sure nurses and employees are washing their hands, which is critical, but to keep us all safe. The patients, the co-workers, the community, the physicians, to keep everybody safe. So I truly admire the work that infection preventionists do. We know that SPD and surgical technologists are an extension, and in due form, we are also infection preventionists. But the folks who truly hold that title, hold that duty, we want to bring them all in. We want to talk to. We got an amazing guest tonight. Some amazing guests. We want to get into it. What she does, how, what was the passion. So I'm saying too much. Let's bring on our guest, Sharon, if you
Want to
can.
bring one in? Okay, guys, you know what to do. This is the best time to share this video. And yeah, let's just bring them in. I want to say welcome to Akia Parker and also welcome to Brian Reynolds. How are you all doing today?
Doing well.
Good.
All right. Guns blazing already. Let's do it. Well, not guns. We live in America.
Yeah. Brian Key, welcome to the show again. Key, we want to jump right in. Tell us what do you do for a living? What's your title, and what's your why?
Well, currently I'm an infection preventionist, And why is because I'm concerned about patient safety. I've always been concerned about patient safety. What can I do? You know, it part as part of a hospital, and what is my role? And even when I was in sterile processing, I felt like I touched the patient. What I did really mattered and affected their outcome.
Wait, let's stop right there because at the end of your statement, you just said something that just pulled in a whole another community. So, as a sterile processing professional, I can also transition to become an infection control preventionist on a
Yes.
different scale.
Yes.
Because you're an
Absolutely.
example, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so Brian, did you hear that? How now when we go back to redefine this career ladder, I don't know of any hospital that I've been in. I've seen some folks, technician, educator, manager, director, etc., surge tech, nurse, that angle. But I have yet to see a career ladder that say, hey, you know what? You can also become an infection control preventionist. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. Infection prevention. Tell us again, because I know as a former sterile processing technician, I'm always a tech at heart. And me and Brian would exchange this what the statement sometime. My closest ally in the entire hospital is gonna be infection control.
Yep.
That is gonna be infection control. Brian, why is that?
Well, for me, with my infection prevention I mean, that's how I get things done. When I need people to understand the changes and the aspect of why we do what we do and the importance of what it is for the patient, that's who I go to. And you partner with them because the thing about it is they know the language a little bit better than what we do. And even if you do know the language, I guess because they stand on the same platform as most of the people that you deal with, they can get it done. And in a lot of places that I've been, when they speak, people listen because they can shut it down.
Well, mic drop. Well said. Ms. Green Golden, agreed. You talking about a dynamic duo? If your infection prevention department and your SPD department has that working relationship, germs can't penetrate. We go way beyond clean, right? And are able to separate the knowledge from the nonsense. So it's a pleasure to dig in. Now, on that, Sharon, go ahead. You had something there.
Well, I just wanted to ask. I know because recently, especially since the pandemic, there's been an uptick, it seems like, in the mention of IP and SPD together. Now, I don't know if it's always been there or if only managers and leaders really understood the importance and the strategicness of that collaboration between those two departments. But since the pandemic, it just seems like there's an uptick in articles and magazines and posting about IP and SPD and really the dance they do and how they should dance more together, like those partnerships. Have you all seen that as well? And two-part question, Kia, Brian, Luane, have you all seen that same uptick? And do you think it will continue after the pandemic fully ends? Like, what can we do to keep that forefront?
I
Brian.
mean, in my experience, I've worked in the private sector and I also work for the government. So in each of the hospitals I've been in, we have always had that partnership to where we were able to get certain things done. I think during the pandemic, it just became more prevalent for their department as well as ours. A lot of people never really paid attention to what sterile processing said. We never really had a seat at the table. But once this whole pandemic thing came, we now it was welcoming to put us at the table because we already would most of the stuff we were already dealing with. We already knew it. So, I think in some situations, yes, we panicked to a certain extent. But after we thought about it, it was like, well, wait a minute, we're dealing with this, and this. And one of the things that Miss Golden always says, if you're doing the right thing the right way all the time, then when this occurred, what was the big uproar? Because if you were doing it right the first time, we didn't have that issue. But my IP area, they helped me get a lot of things done, and there was some firm no's that we were able to say no to because they backed us wholeheartedly, because they said, look, they're the professionals that knows this part of it, and we're going to stand with them. So I think I think more so now, people are really paying attention to the fact that when these people say what they say, they know what they're talking about. So I think it's going to be more prevalent now based on everything that we're dealing with. But it was always there in the forefront. It just wasn't being utilized or notarized.
I totally agree. You know, Kia and Brian and Sharon, I know as a matter of just experience, whenever CMF, Joint Commission, DNV, the city, state comes to the hospital, usually the person representing the hospital is someone from infection prevention. They're on that squad. It's not always SPD, because SPD is not always the cause. But if there's disease prevalence in the facility, something went wrong, infection prevention, again, like I said, that diplomat, because they have to be able to speak the language of a multitude of areas, is usually the one right up front. I think that relationship has always been present. In some facilities, a lot stronger than others, but it's undeniably a bond. Undeniably a bond.
So the question IP and me, for the I don't want to say average worker, but for the professional in SPD, not necessarily a director or even a manager sometimes, but for the professional who, you know, again, maybe they have 3 to 5 people in their department, and even though their title is a lead, they're really running the department. How can they partner? Like, what are some ways, Kia? What are some ways they can partner, leverage the relationship with infection prevention, like develop a relationship, like, you know, what
Absolutely. Yeah. Usually in infection preventionists, we do rounds, like environmental care rounds, our epi rounds, to go to each department, you know, see their processes, how they work. You know, some things we may see and don't understand, we'll question, according to standards, CMS or Joint Commission or AORN, any, you know, of the agencies that are guiding us. But anytime, you know, if they have a question about something, you know, the thing is not to be afraid. If you're doing something wrong, or if something is not working, you know, we're not the police. We don't want to be looked at as the police. I think we're all in this together. You know, we're at the same facility, you know, we're working toward a common goal, patient safety. So it's like, how can I help you? You know, I am your resource, you know, I am your leverage, as you say, to go to the leadership and say, you know, this isn't working. They're doing, you know, such and such, or they need this piece of equipment, or, you know, they need maybe another FTE because, you know, they're not able to get this done safely, the way it should be done. So whatever we can do, and whatever, you know, processes we can institute, you know, operationally to help them work better, for patient safety, you know, that's what your infection preventionist should be able to do for you.
Well said. Tony Thorman, partnering with IP has been beneficial in getting additional equipment and better workflow with facilities management. You must have them on your side. Hey, Tony, you know what we spoke behind the scenes? She was out backstage bragging who her mentor was. And she said, Tony, she dropped name dropping. He said, yeah, I'm Tony Thorman mentioned me. I said, oh, say less, as the young folks say, right? Say less. Yeah, you know what's interesting? At some point, well, some cities I worked in as a young technician, there was a fear factor with infection prevention. You know, we were generally afraid. We thought she was the popo, right? They say infection prevention is our department. Like, oh boy, what do we do now, right?
Yeah.
So we absolutely had infection prevention. Absolutely, well, when I was being groomed as a technician, before I had direct access to your department, there was a factor of distance. We were afraid. Brian, am I making this up? Did you ever experience that?
They were like, it was like, nah, when you see them coming, it's like, oh Lord, what do we do now? But they coming in here to tell us we got to change, and they don't even know our processes. So, I mean, you know, we've all experienced that, but I think over the years, we realize that we're trying to meet the same goal, and just sitting down having those conversations have really broken the ice to where we can at least form a great bond to where we can sit down and talk about the situations that we need to change and touch, and
Now I can tell you from experience, and Shannon, you can jump in after this one. Those monthly, I worked at a level 1 trauma center in New York City way back when, and we would have a monthly infection prevention meeting, right? And at this meeting was the department head from a multitude of departments. This meeting was so much fun because you were called to task to present your data and make the data convert to information, make it usable. And I remember, I'm going to name drop real quick, Dr. Janet Haas, right? She was my first introduction to infection prevention professionals, and she did an amazing job governing and hosting that meeting. It actually taught me a whole lot. I know we have to take a commercial break, but when we return, okay, I want to ask you, ponder this question. Is it necessary for you to be a nurse in order to work in the infection prevention field? We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Those in the know SIPS Consults. SIPS Consults is hiring. Confident, competent, and consistent. Starting as a consultant and a volunteer, SIPS has grown into a dynamic group of stellar sterile processing professionals, offering excellent benefits, 401k, and consultant in training program. We are hiring certified technicians, leads, supervisors, interim managers, educators, coordinators. Apply at recruiting@sipsconsults.com or dial 1-866-615-7977.
All right, guys, and we're back. Luane, I love that question. Thank you so much for asking it, because one of the main things we hear within the Tuesday show and some of the postings and interactions we have is, there's no room for this. There's no growth. You can't do anything. And I'm just like, I hear that, but I see so many people moving, growing, affecting. So back to the question you asked, if it was necessary to be a nurse.
Yes, and do you have to be a nurse in order to be infection control professional preventionist?
Historically, they have been nurses, but now, when people get into the department and they see, what a great role other departments play in infection prevention, we have such a diverse background of people in the infection prevention field. You have people from microbiology, people from nursing, people from central sterile, it's just public health. It's just, and it's good to get, those diverse mindsets to collaborate on, what needs to be done and what needs to happen in the hospital, and not just, one mindset of one field. So yes, absolutely. The sky's the limit. If, you love SPD, I would say, you can continue to grow in the hospital within infection prevention.
Hey, I love this. So I want to ask this question for both of you. Both of you sit, Brian, past president of ISHM, board member, still killing the game with F.I.R.E, the large chapter of the year award winner. Kiyu, how do you sit in your role? You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's an influence. It's not just a task and job description. Patient safety is something from the inside out. It's you're going like helping to minimize infection and all of that. Like, it's how do you sit in that role? You get what I'm saying?
It takes a village, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I've had a lot of people around me in multiple different places that sit in different areas that have gotten me to this point, and I'm grateful for it because they keep me humble. Several IP people that I know right offhand is Miss D. Neil Ferguson, and then there's oh my God, I can't. She used to speak for me all the time, and she would create these contents for me. And I see her face, but I'm drawing a blank for a name. But I promise you, these were the people that made sure that when I had to go to meetings and I had to sit at the table to have these conversations, they made sure that I knew what I was talking about. They made sure that I had the data to speak to those particular things. Like Dwayne said, you got to make it make sense. And even though the data was there, well, how do you interpret it and how do you give it? So I'm able to sit in these roles because they keep me humble. When I want to give up, when I want to throw my hands up and say, you know what, this is too much. I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. I get that person that pulls me aside and be like, hey, come here. Mm-mm. This ain't what we're going to do. So I welcome that. And even when I see new people coming in, I tell them all the time, don't listen. When you get that person to tap you on your shoulder to tell you what you may or may not be doing correctly, those are the people you want to keep. Them that's always in your corner saying, yeah, go do it. Nah, I want you to call me on mine, because truthfully, that's what makes me the better me. And it's going to keep me doing the right things right at all times. So I'm able to do it because of that. And I stand on their shoulders. When I don't have it, they push me up and push me forward to do it. And one of them is on here, Miss Arlene Bush. I don't care what it is. When she don't want to do something, she always pulls the president card for me to do it. But when it's something else that she want to do, then she'll go ahead and do it. And it's like, oh, you're not the president now because I want to do it. So I welcome that. And I'm grateful for those types of people, because they keep me humble. Especially Dwayne, because he gonna say something regardless. He gonna pull my card. So I'm just grateful for that. I thank people for that.
We have a whole tribe of accountability partners. I'll tell you that. Hey, Kia, so you have access as an infection preventionist to so much data, right? How do you just keep? I struggle for a long time just gaining some mastery on a small portion of the AAMI standards. I haven't met anyone who knows all of the AAMI standards. You may know 1 to 8 books, everything. How do you gain mastery and able to dissect such large amounts of information and data? What's your process?
I just go piece by piece, what I can understand. And it's for me, it's interesting reading. And like with AAMI, and new technology that comes out, so everything is always changing and evolving, just making the process better, making it safer for patients. So it's like, okay, we're doing this like this right now, but what's going to happen in the future? How can we make this even safer, for our patients? How can we make this even less strenuous on our technicians, the way, they're working? Is it safe for them and what they're doing? So I love that, how, the process and it evolves. So I love learning new things. So just being a part of that is just, I find, interesting.
Very interesting. I would love, I'm sorry, I have so many questions for this tonight's show. When just about to ask about rounds, Ms. Green Golden, because here we have an infection preventionist and SPD professional, right? My experience, you have some infection preventionists who they know enough to be, as we say, dangerous in SPD. They don't truly know SPD. So to have you rounding our department, take us through how do you round? I would love to hear that experience.
Yeah, just recently I had rounds in my central sterile department, and just me looking at it as a former technician, being on the other side, because some of the infection preventionists that I round with, they are nurses. They do have a nursing background, so they're looking at it through a different lens. Wow. So when I see things, I'm like, oh wow, we need to change this. Or okay, I see the reasoning behind why they're doing this, or it works for them this way, but we need to change a few things, and just to be able to talk to them and have that conversation, like, I've been in your shoes, but hey, you're the expert. You do this every day. You know what you're doing. So I don't want to come in your department and completely throw off your, whole process and say you need to change everything. That's not what I'm trying to do, but I do want you to be compliant. So how can I help you get there? What do you need from me? What do you need from us? Because I see what you're trying to do.
Wow. Okay. So we're gonna just let that just settle for a moment. What she just said. What do you need from me? How can I help you get what you need, or how can I better support you in your role? Again, IP is not the enemy. They're not coming for reprimand and to tear down. And we're actually running the same race. We're in different lanes, but we're running the same race. Brian, I know that you have like mock surveys monthly. So is IP part of that mock survey when they're coming in and looking at everything?
Yes, the IP person that we have now, after Miss Ferguson left, whenever something's coming, she's coming. She comes down and she has a conversation with me and Sam. She'll talk to us about what's coming up, what the situation may be. And just like Kia just said, each of us go to the area with different lenses when it comes to looking for certain things. And whenever she goes out on her rounds, she always comes and get one of us to go with her, because we're so used to going through, like you said, every month I'm doing an inspection from somebody being in the government. So you have to know what to look for, those particular things that, when you walk into a room, the first 5 minutes of me walking into the room, I already see about 5 or 6 different things. And, as Kia explained, I'm not there to impede your department, but there may be some changes that we may need to do to be compliant based on regulatory bodies and things that needs to be done. So, for me, we just had that today. We just went through Joint Commission. So the first thing they did was come down and it's like, oh, well, Brian, what about this? And what about this? And I'm like, it's overwhelming sometimes, but it's a good overwhelmingness because it lets you know what you need to do. And as Kia said, it's just knowing. You have to know that you know what's written, because it's not what Brian said. It's in the policy. Here it is. So,
And you know what, Brian, you actually segue to Sarah B's question. She said, Kia, can you speak to quality and regulatory compliance and how it applies to the language and standards in interpreting the should and couldn't effectively?
Oh, wow.
Well, no, let's do this. Time is flying. We're halfway through this. Let's take another commercial break. When we come back, let's talk about that question, because I know even at HSPA this past year, there was some changes and they were talking about the shoulds that are now shalls, and the wills that are now won'ts. No, there was no wills that are won'ts, but there was some shoulds that became shalls. So let's take this really quick commercial break. And when we return, let's really exploring the language, because a lot of times people don't know. There are not different standards, but different policies versus standards versus recommendations versus best practices. How do I choose what? So we'll be right back in about 1 minute to expound on this.
Let's dig in.
And we're back. I do want to say thank you to SIPS Consults, to CS Assist. Thank you to UCDI leadership for continuing to provide visibility, support, and sponsorship. So Kia and Brian, Brian, just because your name wasn't in the front of that question, don't think we're not coming to you. Can we speak to quality and regulatory compliance and how it applies to the language and standards and interpreting the should and couldn't? So maybe we start with the quality and regulatory language. Go ahead, Kia.
Okay. I can't speak to the AAMI standards, but if you're following them, then you should be following them according to, what AAMI says. I know at the beginning of their standards, they tell you what the should and shalls, what they mean, and how you should be interpreting them. If you have any questions, I would ask your leadership on how you should go along with that. But if you choose to follow those standards, then that's what Joint Commission or other regulatory bodies are going to look, or, I would say, guys, judge you accordingly, as well as your, hospital or, accreditation, policies and standards. So, or, if you're going by CDC guidelines, then that's something they're going to look at. And that's what you should be following, and your processes should line up with those as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well said.
Well said. Okay, Brian, I'm coming to you to ask the same thing, but I must interject this because IP, even though we're talking about the partnership primarily with SPD and IP, but you have to partner with all the departments in this same way. You know what I'm saying? Like environmental services, like you have to have knowledge of all. I'm getting it, Luane. You say it's a lot of information. And so you guys are you're like the infection prevention, almost like task force for the hospital.
Absolutely.
So maybe you kind of are like the police, but not against us, since we're fighting for the same thing, but you're like a sheriff against infection, like not in this jurisdiction.
Look at that. Brian, I know you were called to the podium, but I just want to interject something real quick. These agencies are coming in. They always are going to want, and I mean always, if your policies don't match your practices, right there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You have this great, and if those policies are alluding to something mentioned in Apec or AAMI or ARN or SGNA, and you have it written down, if you acknowledge that this is our hospital policy, look at the header. It says hospital policy. Here's the author, here's the date. And then you look at what's in practice, and it's something you're doing that's not spoken of or identified in that policy, you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We can't even get to quality before you get past that huge void. Sorry about that, Brian.
And I was going to say the same thing. Like I said, for us, those of us that work within the government, one of the things that I love is that when it comes to policies and procedures, we sit at the table to help write those. So any policies and procedures that are written, we are to follow the most stringent of the standards for sterile processing. Any place within our facility that uses reusable, as they say, reusable medical devices, we have a say so. So if it's in AAMI, that's what we're going to follow. And even in the OR, a lot of times we have this whole conception of, well, ERN, well, I need you to look at the bottom of the page, because if you look at the bottom of the page, it says from AAMI ST79 /AORN/ANSI and all these other ones. So, I think it's just getting everybody to understand that, look, we can't do it the old way where, this is what such and such said. No, it's in black and white. It tells you what you should and should not do. And it has the language of what it should be. So we have to follow that language. And I think if you write your policies based on the language that's already there, why recreate the wheel? Because when they come in, they're going to ask, what does your policy say? However, if your policy is not correct, they're going to cite you for it.
Brian and Kia, Tony is turning up the heat. I know we all saw these questions. I'm still going to read it. I love where this is going.
Yeah. Guys, put questions in the chat. Go ahead, Luane.
Hey, Tony, I got you, sir.
Tony, you're not right. You ain't right. You're not right.
Which areas of the hospital do you feel is less compliant, and what approach do you take with them?
Well, I can only speak Kids gonna have something different. In my particular area, we do the entire facility. No one does any type of reprocessing in the facility except for sterile processing. I can tell you that we have this department that's called medicine services.
Ooh.
They don't follow nothing. They do what they want to do. They come in, they use equipment that's expired that shouldn't be young. Listen, they have equipment that's been outdated 3 and 4 years ago, and because they feel it is viable, they still want to use it. However, you can't do any of the updates on it. You can't update any of there's no updates that's available, but because they feel like it's viable. And then when we tell them, no, you can't do it because I'm not a nurse, they don't want to listen to me. So they say, oh, well, we're going to continue to use it. But when Joint Commission comes in and they find it, I'm the person that you want to call to stand in and answer for it. I tell them, you don't want me to do that because I'm going to sing like a jaybird sitting on the wire with my feet dangling. I'm going to sing. So you don't call me up here.
Okay, wait. I love that answer. I have to give an out to our panelists. We could preface these answers with, in my experience, it has been said. That way, although Brian, I'm a little late for you because you just, but hey, I love it too. It's the knowledge or nonsense. It's knowledge or nonsense. Nuts and bolts. Kia?
Okay. I'm gonna take that this is in the area of sterile processing because, as was stated, infection prevention, we do touch all areas of the hospital. So in my experience, it has been said that some doctors or providers may be less compliant. Some of them, it depends on, what institution they come from, how they were taught. They follow their own set of rules, not knowing that, in the confines of a hospital, we do have regulatory agencies that come and check up on us and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So every now and then you'll hear them saying, well, this isn't a sterile area of the body, or, that's not a sterile surface. So, I'm just doing this. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, you're not, we need you to meet us halfway, and as you stated, Brian, sometimes they look at us and say, just look at me like, okay, well, you're not a doctor. So, sometimes getting them there, to understand where we're coming from, like, hey, we're all talking about patient safety. No one wants to walk away with a, healthcare acquired infection, something that they didn't come here with. So we don't want to send them home with anything, so that's where we're coming from.
Hey, Kia, Brian, you don't have to answer this, but which service gives you the most issues? Ortho, vascular, floor nurses? No, please, you don't have to answer that.
All of them. All of them. It depends on the day. All of
them. Yes. Somebody mentioned water quality. Tell it, Brian. All of them. Yes. And that's what's funny too. This is the IP and me part, because sometimes maybe in your department you don't. We are our own voice, but you may not know how to leverage that voice, or you may not have the right audience. But again, that's the benefit of the partnership, because I'll say it, everybody knows there are physicians who are like, yes, there is a set of rules for you all, but those don't apply to me. My particular set of skills makes me exempt outside of our window, outside of our visit window.
Yeah, I was going to say, in our area, see, when they do that, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to tell. Hold on. I pick up my phone, and I call the IP person, and I be like, hey, Rena, I need you to come to surgery now. And she's like, why? I said, just come. Then when she get there and they see both of us, they're like, really, Brian? I told you I was going to care. I told you when I first got here, I'm telling.
Question for you both. Kia, I know you mentioned Tony being one of your mentors. How important was mentorship to you in your career time?
It was very important. Sterile processing, Central Sterile was, one of my first jobs out of school. So just to be in that environment and have that, not only Tony, but that whole, department and village to like try to push you, to be better. That's, the environment that I was so fortunate to come from, because it's like, me being a new person, it's like, you represent us, you represent me. If anything comes up to that OR, it's not right, it's not, sterile, it's not, what it should be, that falls back on us as a department. So we all kind of pushed each other, to that point. Like, we want you to succeed because you represent us. So we just pushed each other to be the best that we could be.
Awesome. Ms. Green Golden. Oh yeah, plastic surgeons.
And
There's like, I cannot sterilize a spoon you brought from home.
And here, like you said, you just said Tony was your mentor. Tony, I'm letting you know you're gonna live this down tomorrow. I will be calling you.
So we know, well, many don't know, the next APEC convention is going to be in Orlando, Florida, in 2023. And I know I went to several APEC conventions. How important is it in the IP community to get engaged with APEC, Kia?
It is very important. They want to know, they want to hear the voices from Central Sterile. They want to know what you're doing, what we're doing, what we're thinking. What's the next big thing? What are some issues that, we have amongst ourselves that, we could reach out, as partners for them to help us or partner on, what is it that they see on the outside that, that changes, that we may need to make. So I think it's very important that we, continue to partner and continue to have that voice in each other's room.
Nice. Excellent. Okay, so I have so many questions I want to ask right at the end. But before we go on to our next question, somebody put yes in Florida again. I hope that's not the butter knives and the spoons or the instruments made in the garage. But Brian, there's a conference coming up this weekend. You want to tell us a little bit about it in Florida? So guys, if you're in the Florida area, even if you're not, and you can get on the plane, hop on down.
Fine. I don't know what it stands for, but we partner with Fine. They're actually, they already do this big, huge seminar to where they do things based on if you're looking for stretchers, if you're looking for equipment that you weren't able to find. They have all these different vendors that come from all over the world that have these particular parts and different things that you can actually go in and get things that you probably couldn't find someplace else. And what they wanted to do is not only are they bringing all these different people from the world, they wanted to go ahead and add an element of sterile processing, but it's not just sterile processing. They do the sterile processing part of it. They also do the supply chain part. And then there's another portion, I think it's geared towards the biomedical part of it. So they have 3 different rooms where they do different things and they bring education for each of these particular areas. So they partnered with us at F.I.R.E to do the sterile processing part of it so that we can, they talk about different things. They've been really great with us. This year was a little difficult for me and Damien to do some things with them because they changed all the leadership. So I'm really looking forward to see how this is actually going to turn out because of all the things, last minute changes that we had to get done with trying to get flyers done and get things approved. And it was just completely different, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's a free event. It's in Miami for 3 days. It's an awesome place to go to. I promise you, you will see some amazing things. And the Miami convention it was just renovated. It's a brand new one. Each time I went, I never get to the end. I only get to the middle. So there's a whole nother part I haven't been able to go to. So if you're in the area, please stop by. It's an awesome thing to look at and go and experience.
Oh, well, yeah, well done. And the link is up. The agenda is absolutely amazing. Some really cool guest speakers. And Brian mentioned is in Miami, right? So is this Friday?
Yeah.
July 9th?
This Friday, yes.
I think Brian has a few extra hotel rooms. So if you want to reach Brian, his number is 9. No, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, it's amazing. 700 vendors. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Big deal. Big deal.
And I just really, guys, I know like within our own skill sets, we really know what we do like the back of our hand. The more we do it, we really become more familiar with it. Sometimes it's muscle memory. You have to force yourself to stay engaged and not check out. But when you go to conferences and things like that, it really helps enhance the understanding. It broadens the understanding. And I'm just a big fan of understanding makes the difference. Like, understanding makes such a huge difference in how you approach something, why you approach something, toward what end we're working, instead of just saying, well, we don't want any infections or we want to increase patient safety, but understanding like the processes and how these different things work together, which is why I'm like, go ahead, Kia, do your thing, like to be able to integrate all of this information. And again, not from a perfection place, like you said early on. I read it and I communicate what I understand as I'm reading it. So, man, understanding makes the difference. Don't be afraid to step out. Don't be afraid to learn something that's not just the cart washer. Don't be afraid to learn something outside of your department. Understanding makes the difference. It will enhance even maybe what you do inside of the department. I should get off of my.
No, it's all, look, you said it right. It's all about collaboration, right? The top name of this show is IP and Me, right?
IP and Me.
And Me. And so it's a must that these two groups collaborate. If you don't know, as a cell processing professional, no matter your title, if you don't know who your IP colleague or neighbor is, shame on you, right? Take a walk. Go to the front desk in your hospital and ask them, where's the infection prevention department, and go meet some of your new people. And don't do what young Luane did when I was a tech. They're not popo, okay? Not popo. They're not coming to ding you, as we say. They are coming to look out. You have a common interest, right? Stop the spread of infection. Common interest. So go find where these folks are. And also quality, that's another third trifecta, and that's where you can find your answers. Another cool, did you say just call Washa? Another cool, in some smaller departments that I've worked at, we didn't always have the resources to afford the AAMI standards, right? But guess who had the resources? Infection prevention. So a lot of the resources and tools you may need, it may not be available in your department. So you go to the neighbor's house.
Yeah.
Earlier in the show, I do want to say Tammy had asked about water quality. She just giving me a hard time saying, did you just say cart washer? But she had mentioned things about steam quality and water quality. So when the water quality is poor, or when there's like competing needs for water, and in older hospitals, maybe I'm the only, well, I'm sure I'm not the only one. Sharon Golden is on here. I'm not the only one at all. As a matter of fact, I'm probably speaking from someone else's experience. But, just even the times that they would use water, the times that they would do laundry, they would have to work around the times of steam sterilization because no one had put real true thought into like the water system, the water quality, how this was going to be used, how it's distributed. Like when there would be competing needs for the heat. Does infection prevent? Go ahead, Luane.
You are so young, but the example you're using is taking us way.
All right, we're gonna bring it back.
You said we have to compete, but it's a statement. We've been there. Especially small facilities. But what's interesting about water quality? How many diseases or pathogens are directly impacted because of your water quality?
Well,
yes. Oh wow, that's a whole nother conversation.
And you know what, Brian and team here, I think water, we don't have enough, my opinion now, we don't have enough water quality experts directly embedded in SPD, right? The experts in a lot of our facilities, biomed, maybe an expert, to some of the mechanical and of water, infection prevention, another wing of expert. But I truly feel that there's a huge lack of experts, specialists in that space. Brian, what do you?
I was gonna say, but that's changing, Lorraine, because now what I can tell you is that I know that the TIR 34 is getting ready to be a actual standard. So I can't speak for the private sector. I can only speak for those of us that I know that are in the government. That's one of the things that we follow. TIR 34 came out, and it was like, no, not you. You should use this. No, you shall. So we have to learn it, and we had to go and we had to buy the things that were needed in order to be able to test it on our end daily, not monthly, not weekly. We have to test it daily, and then Biomed comes in and do their parts. So it is a partnership, and it's not just with IP. We also have to we have to partner with FMS. We have to partner with Biomed, because there are things that are happening in our departments now that before we weren't really a part of. We didn't have to do that. Now TR is saying, well, it's still TR 34 right now. It's saying that you shall do these things. You have to test the water daily. It gives you a min of what it can be. If it's over that, what do you do? Who do you call? We actually had to set up an actual policy in place to show all the things that needs to be done based on TR 34. So I understand your question, Wayne, but I can tell you that if we follow the standards like they say we're supposed to, then this is something that we're going to have to do. And a lot of people don't do it because they don't want to give you the body to do it. It's an actual body that's needed. You can't expect most sterile processing departments are already hurting at the seams. We're doing anywhere from 40 to 50 cases a day with 6 people. Really? And now you want to add and now you want to add the water quality to it, because that's now a must that needs to be done. On top of that, you want to add, we'll just say, some of the GI stuff. There's a difference that's coming in how you got to process that with 6 people, but we got to get it done because everything has to be done by 7:00 start tomorrow morning. Because if Dr. So-and-so doesn't have what he needs, the whole building is going to come down. So,
and Brian, you know what you said, and no matter what instrument topic we're talking about in healthcare, it all leads back to water, every bit of it. What was interesting, and I know this could be a whole nother show, but I do recall being at that same infection prevention meeting, and some of the terminology at that time was like, what are we talking about? Legionella. I would find myself writing down these huge words, and to find out, for our sterile process professionals, you all are handling so many potentially infectious pions on a daily basis and have no idea until you have an idea. And this is where the mentorship, your certification, and studying partnering with infection prevention comes into play. So I think as we dive into this water quality conversation, which is Tamara, you're 100% right, it's a whole nother show. Infection preventionists is a needed resource for our sterile processing departments.
And I see Tim's question about how do we gain compliance. Well, one of the things that we did at my facility is that we brought everybody to the table. Somebody had to sit down and say, okay, look, we got to have this meeting. And we just sent it out. And what I did is I put those people above me that had the power to say, okay, you don't have a choice of whether you want to show up. You're going to show up. So we had those meetings and we had those hard questions of who's going to be compliant with this, who's going to be responsible for this. And then what we did is we divvied it up. I got my part, they got their parts, and we meet monthly.
But Ryan, tell us about who's on that team, because you got a foundation. When you speak, I'm sure your facility you can yell and bring the might of the entire SPD nation if you needed to. So you want to be careful. You don't want nobody. You're gonna be who paint the picture. Who's on this collaborative team at the table?
Well, you have sterile processing. You have infection preventionists. You have quality management. You have, in our particular facility, we have the ADPCS. We also have the chief of surgery. We have the EMS because they have a part in this as well. We have FMS, we have biomed, we have all of the key nurse managers in the areas that utilize water in their areas. All of them are a part of it as well. And what we did is we created boards, and these particular boards, you have to have somebody from your particular area that's there. If they're not there, if you don't send a designee, what they do is they come in and they audit it. How many times have you missed this meeting? If you missed this meeting more than 2 times within that year, you got to explain why you missed this meeting and what the problem was and why you didn't send a designee. And there's an oversight committee that handles all of that, which who's ever in charge of that particular area, you could end up getting a reprimand or an admonishment based on not attending those meetings. So those were one of the things that we were very instrumental with doing, including myself. I have to be a part of those meetings and if I'm not there, I have to send a designee to answer the questions or just to even be part of it. So I can tell you that
Hey, Brian
froze just a little bit.
Hey, Kia, in your facility,
Mhm.
is infection prevention involved in testing the water quality of the hospital?
Yes, we are. And I was talking about those diverse backgrounds. We do have an environmental infection preventionist, and one of the accreditation bodies, don't ask me which one it is, they require us to have a water management plan. Like, how are we managing our water throughout our facilities? What's our process? What's our remediation that we do? If we encounter any, harmful bacteria, what do we do? So we do have a work group that, that environmental infection preventionist is on, along with facilities. And like Brian mentioned, some other leadership from, other areas in the hospital, because it's not only important, as we know, to have good water quality and sterile processing, the way we, rinse our instruments, but just throughout the hospital in general, what are our patients bathing with? What are they, drinking? What are we, especially important for our high level disinfection, when we are, high level disinfecting those instruments, what's the water quality that we are rinsing with? We all know that the water that comes out of our tap is not sterile. So, it has something in it. It's just like, what level do we consider acceptable? What are we going with, So that, water quality is beginning to be a big, hot topic.
Wow. So SPD Nation listening, how many of your facilities, one, have a water management plan or program? And do you know how to access it and what's involved in it? We just put up a link from the CDC about a template or toolkit for water management and quality. So thanks for that. That was a nugget. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Man, okay. So this has been amazing. It's already, we've been going an hour already. And so Kia, tell the people how to connect with you. Where can they connect with you?
Anyone can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me, Kia Parker. And just connect with me, and I'm more than willing to, friend some people, network, answer any questions you may have in infection prevention. How do you get in infection prevention? How can you connect with your infection preventionist? Some questions you may have that you want to relate to them in your institution. So I'm open. Anyone questions?
All right. And I'm going to do the same thing for Brian Reynolds. Guys, if you want to connect with Brian Reynolds, there's the Florida reprocessors. You can connect with them there. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. You can open up the Process magazine. I'm sure there's a way to connect with him right there in the back. He's on boards. He stays visible. He's passionate about this industry. Definitely want to say thank you to Tony, Arlene, Sharon, Tammy, Kenneth. People just went in. Sarah B. This has been a very meaty discussion. I've learned a lot. LaWayne, you have something?
It's a lot of fun, just from the quality of our viewers, right? Thank you so much. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're spending your Tuesday with us. So, Kia, thank you for being an inspiration. There's a lot of sterile process professionals like, wait a minute, I can do what? How? You're an example. Brian, again, my friend, thanks again. Let's keep it going.
I do want to say this. At the beginning, we told you we would give you some information about water. Now, we ended up talking about water quality within the hospital. And just knowing, I didn't know that it was, I mean, I knew in my mind, but talking about it really just made me realize again, like, stop playing. Water is no joke. And it is no joke for you as well on outside of the facility. There is a heat wave going. I know we're talking about it and people are laughing, but understand people's air conditions are giving out. And sometimes, at least in this country, we may not know what it really is like to be without air conditioning, but people are having heat strokes. I'm talking prime athletes whose bodies are conditioned to withstand things. They are experiencing heat exhaustion, heat strokes, and the adverse effects of not having enough water in their body. So please do what you can to be hydrated. Drink the water. I don't care if you don't like it. Just drink the water. Please drink the water so that your body can function optimally, so that those organs in there aren't looking like SpongeBob when he's out of his natural habitat, okay? Please drink the water. We want you to be around. We have need of what you bring to the industry. We have need of what you bring personally and professionally. People care about you. And yeah, that's all I had to say. That's all I had to say.
Well, all right. Thanks for joining us. And we'll
see you guys soon.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kia. Oh, where's Mr. Hold on, guys. Now my computer is ready to go. Have a good night.